Welcome to Two Dudes, One Movie Podcast, the podcast where two dudes dive into cinematic masterpieces from a different decade each week. From black and white classics to modern day blockbusters, we'll be covering it all. This season, we've been focusing on romantic comedies, and for our final pick of the season, it comes from yours truly. It's something special. We're talking about How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Rick?
Park.
You think I was going to say Footloose there?
I did, Park, because we were really debating that at the end of last episode.
I know. I don't think we ever resolved that.
We did not. But Park, I watched the newest Footloose. So I assume that we would do, is that Miles Teller? I thought that was the obvious choice,
Miles
right?
Teller. I mean, I enjoy that one as well. It's nothing compared to the classic, but I personally enjoy it.
Well, Park, I don't think that's a rom-com, and the producer also doesn't. You're outvoted 2-1. How do you feel about How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
Rick, obviously I have strong feelings for it if I'm bringing it to the party.
That's true.
But this was actually kind of hard for me because I don't watch like a lot of rom-coms. I'm not like into the meta of rom-coms like a lot of people are. And so there wasn't like one that I was like, this is it. If there was one that I was like, this is it, we already watched it earlier this season when it was Hitch. I think Hitch might be my favorite rom-com personally. But nonetheless, I think this is a really great film. I think this really epitomizes like what a rom-com is. And I think it's an enjoyable watch for anyone who even remotely enjoys rom-coms.
Sure, be careful with the braiding the rom-coms over there, Park. We don't need to know your favorite till next week.
That's fair. That's fair. Just giving you a little tease of our final episode of the season.
Well, Park, are you ready for the recap this week?
I'm ready. This is our last recap of the season, Rick.
I feel like I should have spent more than 5 minutes on it, but hey.
Rick, I would want it no other way.
I've cracked the code. Today, we learned how to make a rom-com in 10 days. 1, take place in New York City. 2, you have to have alliteration names, right? I mean, we get the wonderful names of Andy Anderson and Benjamin Barry. 3, you add a desperate friend. 4, unrealistic plot device that brings the two together. 5, love fern. Park, there's only 9 steps. I'm warning you right now, I missed a step. 6, montage of early 2000s pop hits. 7, falling in love before plot device brings them apart. 8, epic chase scene that rivals Tom Cruise movies. 9, helicopter pan shot of the kiss as we fade out. 10, and that's how we make a rom-com. I fixed it.
There we go, Rick. And that's what happens when you spend 5 minutes on it.
I wrote the number 5, and I didn't put anything there. I just wrote 6 after it.
I know. Oh man, I see that in the notes now, Rick. How embarrassing.
Well, Park, the recap has been read, and we can't take it back.
Rick, that was great. I think you really summed up and epitomized what we've learned over the course of this entire season.
The step 1 really epitomizes. I feel like we're 80% of our movies were New York City.
Yeah, and can I just say, it feels so right to be back in New York City for our last rom-com of the season.
We had to be. I had to see those yellow cabs.
We weren't for yours. Yours took place in Chicago.
I know.
They eventually make their way to New York by the end, of course. But
Park, that's where they say love belongs in Chicago.
They all say that.
That's what everyone says it.
We're going to get T-shirts that say that, aren't we? Love belongs in Chicago. Just like how Dunkin' Donuts belongs in Boston.
It's true. That's what we learned this season. Last season, we learned about Boston. This season, maybe we learned a little bit about Chicago.
Isn't it beautiful? I can't wait to figure out what we're going to learn next season.
I see you got a little plant behind there. Is that a love fern?
Rick, I have a gift for you.
You have a gift?
I have a gift for you.
I'm excited. What is it?
It's funny that you brought up a love fern. I got you your own love fern.
Oh, Park, that's beautiful.
For the pod. This is just for you.
Oh, thank you.
Isn't it great?
It looks fantastic.
This symbolizes our love for the podcast.
I'm glad he didn't give me one of his little rat dogs.
Well, that was close. I was really debating between the rat dog and the love fern.
Adopting a dog just to send it up here.
Yeah. Well, you're coming to see me during the Super Bowl, Rick, so I was going to surprise you then.
And that's true. Say, hey, this dog's your responsibility. It was signed out in your name. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope you enjoy your love fern. It'll be waiting here, probably dead by the time you arrive, whenever that is, Rick.
It wouldn't be the love fern if it didn't die before it came back alive, Park.
That's
right?
the beauty of love, Rick. Love dies, but it can be reignited.
It's like a flower. Like every season, it'll die in the winter.
It's easier to catch fire when it's dead.
I like it, Park. I think that's a great.
Isn't that a great point?
Great symbolism, yes.
I know. I thought of that all on my own.
I'm so proud of you.
I don't think
Park,
a lot of things on my own.
You're thinking of a lot of good stuff now. I feel like you gotta tell us about the good, bad, and ugly. You gotta start with the good.
Rick, I'd love to start with the good. And I have a few goods. Let me just start off by saying, and we've kind of already talked about this, but this is like comfort food for me, Rick, this movie. It's like it epitomizes the perfect rom-com in the sense that you want a by-the-numbers rom-com that just is what it is. You're like, I need a rom-com. This is like the one you turn on, you know, where you don't have to like really pay 100% attention, where you don't have to like feel like you have to keep your brain on, but you can just sit there and enjoy it, laugh a little bit, like a little bit. You know, it's just perfect. And it takes place, in my opinion, the best decade of rom-coms. I think the 2000s as a whole has the strongest, is like peak rom-com, if we're being honest, Rick.
Even though Last Week was obviously my personal favorite, I mean, it's literally, I fully believe that is in my top 10 movies, even if it's like number 10 or 9. But I also understand there's like rare these days. I mean, that's 5 years ago, 6 years ago, so it's like, it's rare.
The reality is like rom-coms just aren't culturally the same thing that they were 20 years ago. Like, you hardly ever see any in theaters. You maybe get 2 or 3 rom-coms in the theaters. They don't draw large crowds. Everyone just waits to see them on the streaming platforms. But the 2000s was just that peak where there were so many great ones. They'd really figured out the formula to a T, and all was well. And so we had to come back to the 2000s for my pick. If it wasn't going to be Footloose, of course. Besides that, I enjoyed the dynamic of Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson. I think that they had great chemistry together. I think they had really good banter. There was just a lot of fun dynamic to them. I love just watching them try and do the most ridiculous things that a girl or guy could do to ruin a relationship or save a relationship. I thought that played out so well on camera, and for that to be the hook of the movie, it works really well. And then finally, Rick, we've talked about this once, we've talked about it twice, but it's nice to be back in the tried and true New York rom-com.
That's true. I mean, that is one of my goods that I did not just write down right now. New York City is the place to be to fall in love. That's what we learned, Park. We see it New Year's Eve every single year. You see people wearing their adult diapers out there all day, pissing and crapping themselves. Then they share that kiss, Park.
They don't share kisses like that anywhere else, Rick.
Nowhere else, Park. They share that kiss nowhere else.
Rick, I want to hear some of your goods.
I absolutely love Matthew McConaughey. I don't even care whether he's acting in something, whether I'm watching college football and he's for some reason always on the Texas sideline.
Or if you're just watching a Lincoln car commercial.
That's true, a Lincoln car commercial. Well, he could be going to his class at Texas. I don't know if he does it online. He could be doing whatever it takes. I wish I researched this more. Matthew McConaughey did like a weird, I think it was Matthew McConaughey. He did like a weird, like kind of culty class thing that had nothing to do with the University of Texas. It was like last year or the year before that. It was like a seminar they had to pay like $50 for. And it seemed very culty, but also very on brand for Matthew McConaughey.
Honestly, I would join a Matthew McConaughey cult.
I honestly think you could put Matthew McConaughey in absolutely any type of movie and don't give him a script and he'll figure it out. I'm not even sold. Honestly, this might be the most scripted Matthew McConaughey movie I've seen. I feel like Matthew McConaughey generally, like I love listening to him talk. It's the greatest accent part because his
He
little.
does have a good accent and a good voice. I'll give you that, Rick.
Also, one of my loves in life is I love just being with the bros, the dudes, the guys,
The dudes.
just that poker night, having a cigar. It's what it's all about, Park. It was short lived, and we'll revisit that later. We don't need to visit it now. But that first few minutes, Park, it was great.
That was where they're just sitting around smoking cigars, plopping money into the pot.
Mm.
Wish I had more of those nights, Rick.
That's what life's all about, Park.
Gambling. That's all it's about. Gambling with the boys.
Oh, but not. It has to be in a intimate setting though. That's in like an apartment or a cabin.
Not at a casino where we both just sat at a.
Do that. That was sad.
Rick and I recently traveled to a casino in our area for a little boys' weekend, and one of our friends is a passionate Texas Hold'em fan who desperately wanted us to join him at the table, and so we did. We sat there for 45 minutes, didn't play one hand, and lost like $70.
I never want you to say little boys' weekend ever again.
Rick, what else would you call it? Would you call it a big boys' weekend?
I feel like that's better than the other version of that. So.
We were little boys that weekend, Rick. Let's be honest.
Goodness. I just felt like we lost money. So, and I understand we lost money in the trip either way. I'd rather watch it slowly. Like I want to bleed out slowly as I'm watching a sports. I don't want to get. I
don't know what you're talking about, Rick. I was bleeding out slowly at the Hold'em table.
I felt like we were bleeding out fast, Park. 3 rounds and we were done.
We were there for more than 3 rounds. We did like 12 or 15 rounds.
I'm the same, Park, as we watched a football game and it was like 3.5 hours. We were there for like 30 minutes.
That's true. That was good. I enjoyed that.
I think the other goods is like similar to what you said. It's what the 2000s rom-com is. Probably even like more so. I know you brought up Hitch. Hitch probably is like the better rom-com, but this one like legitimately perfectly fits the 2000s.
Yeah.
Like rom-coms as a genre. Like the music, like all the little montages, like literally everything was like very 2000s. It was cool. So I think those are my goods, Park.
Well, those are some great ones, Rick. I'm going to go ahead and move us on to the bads, and I'm going to share my bads of this film. Not too many. There's nothing like spectacular about this film, but there's nothing like there aren't mountain tops and there aren't valleys. Everything's pretty consistent, But the few things that did bother me a little bit is one, the actual romance between the two leads felt rushed, didn't feel believable. When you think about in context to how quote unquote crazy Kate Hudson's character was acting leading up to when they go visit McConaughey's family, I can't believe that one good day with the family would alter that relationship so profoundly to the point where they have fallen in love with each other. And it works because that's a rom-com and it's like simple and easy, but at the same time from a story standpoint, it's tough to buy into it. And then my second bad is I feel like Kathryn Hahn's character was incredibly underutilized. I feel like when you look back throughout our season at a lot of the supporting characters in rom-coms, and those characters get nearly fleshed out relationships or they get fleshed out storylines, but she's just shoot in. She's used as jokes at the beginning and used to create the plot device of how to lose a guy in 10 days. And then she pops in every once in a while to talk to Andy Anderson, and then nothing happens with her character until the very end of the movie when the guy just randomly shows back up at her doorstep. But it's all reactionary. There is no action being taken place, and I can't stand that in films when things happen and it just happens because it happens, and it's not done from a actionable place where the characters are going out and doing something. And so for that reason, I think the whole supporting actress Kathryn Hahn role just really was, in my opinion, the weakest part of the movie. And it's such a shame because Kathryn Hahn is an incredible actress. and she could have really brought something special to this role. But the script, the story, the direction, nothing played to her benefit in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my notes are on the same note as that. I think it's more the pacing to me instead of the romance, because I think they had like at least the leads had chemistry. I feel like they kind of saved it at the end. Like they're very likable with each other from even the very first time they met.
Yeah.
But the pacing was weird in a way that that's why it didn't make it believable. Like I feel like the entire movie is basically them doing kind of ridiculous things to get each other. And then it's like 10 minutes when they're in Staten Island and then that's it.
Yeah, but I agree with you, though. They had great chemistry. When you think about that first night when they meet and they're at the bar and they're playing back and forth by having one-word conversations, like that could come off so corny and so poor, but their chemistry with each other made that scene work so well.
I even thought the same with the basketball game. I thought that was pretty good too in terms of like chemistry and their reactions to each other. And obviously it's the point of the movie of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, but it's just her trying to do ridiculous things. And then it's like you just get 10 minutes in Staten Island and that's kind of it.
Yeah. Also, Rick, shower sex. Oh my, that's how you fall in love, apparently.
Also, I don't think I've had I've been married for a long time.
Where's this going, Rick?
I don't think I've ever shared an intimate moment on the toilet as they did in this movie.
That's true. It all started on the toilet.
The lead, yeah, there was a lead up before the shower park.
It's the foreplay. The toilet is the foreplay, Rick. Producer Becky's Ewing back there.
Nothing in this movie happens without two key things, Park: the love fern and the toilet.
The love fern and the toilet. That's if this movie was out when social media was out, that probably would have been its hashtag for the movie. Hashtag love fern and toilet.
It's true. That's what I would hashtag it. Or love and toilets. There's a lot of ways you could.
Ferns and toilets.
Ferns and toilets. I'm not even commenting about that now. When that scene happened, I was like, this is like kind of a hilarious place to have like a very
like
intimate,
fall in love
moment
with each other. It is.
Because that was like the turning point of them sharing some type of feelings, like legitimate feelings, was on the toilet.
That's a really great observation. I have to totally agree with you on that.
Park, I see that you are absolutely disgusted by an ugly in this.
I have a really big ugly, and it really bothered me throughout this film. And I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of people who are going to roll their eyes at this and not care, but as a passionate basketball fan, it is BS that the Knicks are playing the Sacramento Kings in the NBA Finals. There is not a parallel universe out there where the Knicks and Kings are playing in the NBA Finals. I am sorry. And I know that the Sacramento Kings had a couple successful seasons back in the mid-2000s, but they never made it that far, Rick. And then don't even get me started about the Knicks. The Knicks have sucked since like the 90s.
I always think it's like such a weird place with all of these 2000s movies is revolving so much around the Knicks.
I know. That you could have put that in your 10 steps right there.
I should have had the Knicks because they've been 3,
Knicks.
Right? This is their third?
Yeah.
The Knicks game has been in?
I think so, yeah. But the other thing that really bothered me also revolves around this basketball series, Rick. And it's basically that no NBA Finals schedule is going to play out the way that it does. You have back-to-backs happening in this. There are no back-to-backs in an NBA Finals series. You have at least one day of rest in between each game, Rick. Also,
it's a roller coaster.
On day 8 or 9 of the relationship between the couple, he presents Andy with 2 tickets to Game 7 of the NBA Finals for day 13. That is 5 or 4 days away, Rick. They haven't even played Game 6 yet, and depending on who wins Game 6 is going to determine if there is even a Game 7. So those tickets aren't even on the market. So what is he doing? He's saying, I got these tickets that we can go to maybe if the Knicks lose their next game. Hopefully they lose so we can go to it. That is a bunch of baloney, a bunch of pishy caca, and I will not stand for it.
It's part of the game. It's part of his move, Park. He had insider information. The Knicks
he
were
called in
the
the
game.
Knicks organization. He said, boys, I need you to pull one for me.
Oh, I need to include this in my ugly, even though it might be more of a bad, but we're going to call it an ugly. That's where we are.
Okay.
This movie had absolutely awful product placement. Like in your face. Not in the background. The worst one to me is the Sky vodka. There's like a 2 seconds, probably 60-second scene of them like at a table on the top of whatever building they kept hanging out on. I couldn't. It was at their building. I don't know if they ever really talked about it.
I don't know.
Anyway, they're hanging on top of a skyscraper, which I guess is kind of a cool spot to hang out on. And there's just like a perfectly branded Sky vodka bottle. Like I feel like it was right in your face in the camera. I was like, yeah, try.
That probably covered 25% of the budget of the movie, Rick.
It probably did. Like the other ones were the usual suspects. You had a little Bud Light, you had a little Coke. But the Sky vodka, come on.
What are your opinions on the Frost Yourself slogan? Brilliant or stupid?
I would go brilliant, but oh man, that's tough. It's a mix between brilliant and stupid.
I think it's brilliant in a rom-com, but stupid in real life. It's one of those scenarios.
I agree. Also, I feel like the jewelry brand and people came off as very like high class. Like I could see like K Jewelers doing something like that, but if you go up to like whatever tier that they're at of diamonds, I feel like it'd be kind of silly. But Park, I have one main ugly in this.
Hit me with it, Rick.
Never, ever, Park, interrupt boys' night. You can't do it.
I could not agree more.
Even if you
are trying to lose a guy in 10 days.
You cannot interrupt boys' night. It's sacred, Park, in all houses.
It's funny because that's when he actually, quote unquote, dumps her.
I know.
And is going to let her go. That was the camel that broke the straw's back, or that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Excuse me.
The camel that broke the camel's back.
The camel that broke the straw's back, Rick.
Park, I evoked noises in me I didn't know existed when I saw that happen.
Can you share some of those noises with
Park,
with our listeners?
Because I feel like I can't repeat them.
All right,
that's how
okay, let me set the scene. Let me set the scene.
I'm not going to do it, Park.
Rick, get me another beer. I'm about to get a royal flush and win this pot. Oh no, my wife just walked in with a love fern. What do you do? What do you say?
Parker, I told you. You can't. I can't even go back to that moment in my head. It's one of those things that you just wake up in the middle of the night and chills and cold sweats thinking about. Is people interrupting boys' night.
How often do you wake up in a cold sweat thinking about that?
At least 2 or 3 times, Park.
A day? A year?
That's up for you to decide. It depends. Depends on the season.
Sounds like iCarly right there. Normally, this would be the part in our podcast where we do our now and then segment. But let's be honest, everybody. We've been doing that segment all season, and we have beaten the rom-com tropes to death like a dead horse. So we're going to do something a little different for our final episode that's not our season finale. Rick, it's a question. We're kind of fusing our stupid question categories into this, but it's one question, and this is it. How would you lose a dude in 10 days? Not a guy, but a dude, because those are completely different scenarios. I want to know, how would you lose a dude in 10 days?
Oh, man, Park. I think I'd have someone interrupt boys' night.
Gosh. You would have to interrupt at boys' night. No, Rick, you would have to... well, I can't help you. This has to be...
I would have
you
to
have
do
to do
what
this on your...
Parker, I guess that'd be sketchy. I'd have to do what I hate most.
You would have to become the thing that... You'd become the thing that you hate. You either live long enough to die a hero or see yourself become the villain.
It's true, Mark. I would be doing something similar to Oppenheimer, creating the atomic bomb in this situation. Something I don't want to do and something I know I will regret for the rest of my life.
But if you don't do it, someone else will.
I know, Park. So I think that's the goal. I would set up 10 straight days of absolutely magical boys' nights First one would be like Smash Bros. And pizza.
That sounds pretty fun.
The game, Smash Bros. And pizza. Let's calm down, guys. Let's calm down.
Oh my gosh. What is happening tonight? And the second night, it would be Smash Boys and Pizza the other way.
But every single night, Park, you got to interrupt at the crucial moments. Like one of them, there might be Monday Night Football. Maybe it's a playoff game. Maybe you're watching the Cowboys and there's 2 minutes left and they're clinching onto a 3-point lead. And Aaron Rodgers is back there and he has time on the clock. And then someone interrupts you and that's it. Maybe, Park.
That would probably do it for you, I think.
I think that would also do it for me. I think I'm one of those playoff games, one of the Aaron Rodgers destroying my heart games. My power went out, I think, on the last drive, and I had to scramble, Park, and then we just lost anyways.
Oh no, I'm sorry, but it's funny that you bring that up because Rick, that's how I would lose you as a dude in 10 days. That was exactly what I was thinking, but I was thinking more in the context of the Cowboys finally make it to the Super Bowl, and I bought 2 tickets to the Super Bowl, and I invite you to go, and then we get to the gate, and my wife walks up, and I say, "See ya, loser," and the two of us walk in, and I leave you at the gate of the Super Bowl where the Cowboys are playing.
That'd be tragic. Honestly, I thought you were gonna say you went to the stadium and you actually took me to a Keith Urban concert.
Do you not like Keith Urban?
No, I'm indifferent towards Keith Urban. He just had a song in the movie.
I know. I love old school Keith Urban. Can I just say that? It is like on another vibe. I surprisingly used to have 2 weightlifting classes my senior year of high school, and I would jam out to Keith Urban when I was lifting weights.
The 2 times you lifted weights? Were those the 2 classes?
The 2 times I lifted weights, Rick, Keith Urban was jamming in my ears.
Keith.
I should have told his wife that years later. She probably would have appreciated it.
Also, he's Australian. He's not country. Yeah, this is a whole different debate.
Nicole Kidman's Australian too, so they're perfect together.
Why is he saying country music?
Because he's an entrepreneur and sees his opportunity wherever he sees it.
He sees where the market is, and at the time it was country. I guess you're
also,
right, Mark.
Who's not to say that there isn't a countryside of Australia, Rick?
There
Are
is.
you
but I feel like it
Australian?
has to be labeled. It has to be like, I don't know what you would call that. Country.
Australian country.
Really, there's like a K-pop. You do like a. Ooh, I'm not gonna finish that one. I was gonna shorten the word country, but that leads to a vulgar word. Can't do that.
Oh, yikes!
That we cannot do that one.
Yeah. Rick, we've already been dicey enough tonight. Let's.
So I don't know. Either way, Keith Urban, I know you're listening. We'd love to have you on.
Keith, I would honestly have you on our podcast before I had your wife. And she is in a fantastic AMC promotional video.
Keith, I would love to have you on over Parker for one day.
Hey. No one's going to listen to this podcast if I'm not on.
That's true. Even Keith Urban.
Even Keith Urban. He'd pull into the Zoom chat and be like, "Where's Parker?"
Well, Park, I have a fun activity for you. Are you ready for it?
I'm born ready for this, Rick.
We're doing another AI script reading as we did last week. Parker put me in the script last week. I put him in the script this week. So, we're going to see how this played out. Generally, when I go on ChatGPT, I'll test some things out. I'll save some things. I'll test some words, phrases, see what ChatGPT spits back out. Today, I wrote 2 sentences, straight up copied and pasted it onto this document, and that's what we're reading.
You really put 100% effort into preparations tonight, Rick.
I was cooking bison burgers and homemade fries tonight.
Rick,
so,
that wasn't the only thing you were cooking. You were cooking an AI-generated script for the ages.
I did that as well. Also used a new decanter. I have wine. You see? It's good.
That's a very fitting beverage when we're talking about rom-coms, Rick.
I think it is. Park's in the script. Parker, you will be playing Parker. I will be the narrator, and when she comes into picture, I will be Andy.
All right.
Okay.
I love it. Okay.
So here we go.
Oh, boy. It takes place in my apartment. Awesome.
It does.
I didn't know my apartment was in New York City.
Or maybe this is an Atlanta version, Park. You never know.
Ah.
So, enter Parker's apartment. Daytime. You're also played by Matthew McConaughey. So I put that in ChatGPT that Matthew McConaughey was playing you, so you can add that accent if you would like.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, wow. What an honor.
I did it purposefully, Park, so you can use the accent.
Let me just try and get into it real quick. All right, all right, all right. Let's talk about soap. All right, I'm ready.
Let's do it. So, Parker, played by Matthew McConaughey, a nerdy guy with glasses and unkempt hair, is meticulously tending to a potted plant, the infamous love fern. He wears a lab coat and carries a clipboard with notes on plant care.
All right, all right, all right. I'm going to take care of you now, little love fern. You're mine. You hear that? You're all mine. You all right over there?
I'm good. You didn't even read the actual line.
I just saw the whispering. I just thought I was supposed to ad-lib that, whispering to love fern. I didn't know I had an actual line. Sorry. All right.
Oh, we can take it from the top if you want to.
No,
Continue.
I'll just
Okay.
dive right back into it.
All right, get back in.
You're looking splendid today, my green companion. I've been doing so much research, and I've discovered a new technique to enhance your growth.
Parker pulls out a small magnifying glass and inspects the love fern's leaves with intense focus, rubbing his hands together.
Ah, yes. It seems we have a promising development here. Photosynthesis is at an all-time high.
The love fern seems to wilt ever so slightly, as if it's cringing at Parker's enthusiasm. Gosh, this is a hard one to do. Parker, smiling.
Don't you worry, my leafy friend. I got everything under control.
Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Parker hurriedly puts down the magnifying glass and rushes to answer it.
Ah, the delivery for the organic plant food store. Our feast awaits.
He opens the door to reveal Andy, played by Kate Hudson, played by me, I guess, who looks both surprised and amused by Parker's nerdy demeanor. Parker, is that you?
Oh, hey, Andy. Yeah, just taking care of my little green companion here, you know, the love fern.
Andy glances at the wilted fern and raises an eyebrow. Well, that's dedicated. Parker gestures towards the plant's food delivery.
I got some special organic nutrients for our beloved fern. It's going to thrive like never before.
Andy can't help but chuckle as Parker excitedly starts preparing the plant food. I had no idea you were such a plant enthusiast, Parker. As Parker continues his nerdy plant care routine, the love fern seems to roll its metaphorical eyes, silently wishing for Andy to rescue it from him.
There's like a whole other movie taking place within this scene.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, Rick, that really felt like a script where you wrote 2 lines for it.
I did. So I was either between that or I was going to make you into the movie. Like, I was going to add a scene. I was going to put you into the movie, but you were physically the love fern. That was the other option.
Well, I appreciate this option because it let me practice my Matthew McConaughey, which was probably not very good for everyone listening out there. But hey, I had a good time.
It started out well, and then you kind of went to Cleveland from Family Guy. Then you went country on us.
Yeah, I couldn't keep it consistent.
That's okay, Park. That's all right.
Well, when you only have seconds of preparation, there's only so much you can do, Rick.
That is fair. That is fair, Park.
I've got some good news, and I've got some bad news.
Hit me with the bad first.
This is the last the rom and the com scale of the season.
I feel like I already want a rom-com season part 2, Park. This is hard.
I know. You want the good
let's
news
do
now?
the 2030s next.
2030s. There we go. Hey, but here's the good news. This is the last rom-com scale of the season.
It's not good news. Park, this scale knows all.
I know. We're never going to have such a perfectly crafted scale again.
It doesn't even need to be rom-coms. You can put this scale on any movie. Any single movie, Park.
But it just doesn't feel right to doing it for anything but a rom-com, Rick.
I know. So we'll be retiring the scale. Maybe there's a little treat for the scale next week. You never know.
We don't even know. We haven't planned out next week.
That's true. So the retirement party for the scale will be next week.
Yep. Put
Along
it on
with
your
the
calendars.
announcement for the next season.
Oh, my goodness. I cannot wait, Rick.
Well, Park, before we get there, let's use this scale maybe for the last time. Would you like to do the honors of going first?
Rick, I would love to. I'm going to start with the ROM of the scale, I think. And, Rick, this was honestly the weaker aspect, I think, of the movie. They had great chemistry, but there isn't a lot of ROM, and when the ROM does occur, it's very rushed, and it's due to the pacing of the movie and the story itself. And therefore, I give the ROM a 2.5 out of 5. As for the com, Rick, Park.
There's
There's some great com in here. I really love the dynamics. I love the plot device that's being used as the gimmick of this film, which I consider to be part of the com in itself. And for that, I give it a 4. A 4 out of 5. Therefore, giving this film and my final rating of the rom-com scale of the season a 6.5 out of 10.
Park, I agree with you in one place. I completely disagree with you in the other. I agree with you, Park, that the ROM's definitely 2.5. Even before you said it, in my head, that was easy. It was like, this is an easy 2.5 kind of movie. Because it's there. The seeds are there. So it can't be lower. It can't, like a 2 feels too low. But also can't be higher, Park.
Mm-hmm.
I see. That's unfortunate. So 2.5. Also for the com, I didn't laugh as much as last week. It was like enjoyable. I feel like there's comedies and there's rom-coms to where maybe you get a little smile here and there.
Well, and perfectly encapsulates my point earlier. It's comfort food, Rick.
Yeah, it's like Cracker Barrel.
I love Cracker Barrel. I think we've talked about this before. We don't need to get into it again.
I guess it's really like Cracker Barrel, Park. You go to Cracker Barrel, you're like, ooh, that was like a warm for the soul a little bit. But it's never going to blow you away, you know? Like, it's never going to be like, wow, that was the most amazing thing I ever had. Just like this is not the funniest thing, Park.
It could blow you away in other places, Rick.
That is true. So, Park, I'm going to hit this with also a 2.5.
Wow.
I would teeter going lower, but because this is your pick and you're my partner, and I'm on the fence, I'm going to give you the 0.5.
Wow.
I was leaning 2, Park, but just for you.
You give me
I'm
that.
giving you a 0.5.
So it ends at an incredibly average rate of
a 5 out of 10, which perfectly encapsulates the 2000 genre of rom-com movies.
It really does, Rick. It really
Because there's nothing
does.
absolutely like fantastic that it's on anyone's top 50 list of movies, I feel like. Maybe that is. I don't know. But it does everything pretty well, you know? Average.
It just does everything you want in a rom-com, you know? It's exactly what you want when you're like, I want to watch a rom-com.
That's why like rom-coms in general are really hard to find. They just suck now that you watch on a streaming service because it's literally the same exact thing that they try to recreate. There's nothing new ever trying to happen.
Yep. It was a special time back then, Rick. This season is not over yet. We're going out with a bang. We've got one more episode for you all. It's our season finale episode, just like season 1. We're going to celebrate the rom-coms through all the decades, look back at some of the best moments of the season, rate our list of movies from this season, and just have a good time with each other. We had a good time last season. We're going to have a good time with you again, all in a short window of time to not waste your time.
Sure. Parker will be back with the Love Fern. Maybe I'll be on a toilet. You never know what you're going to get. So tune in next week.
That's the beauty of the season finale. And of course, the biggest news that'll come out of the season finale is what is season 3's genre?
I feel like this is like if you ever watched the like Survivor or a reunion show at the end of a Survivor season, And at the very end, they give you a little sneak preview at the next season.
I just consider it like an after the final rose episode, and we're introducing the new Bachelor.
We grew up with different genres of reality television, Park.
We really did, Rick. We really did.
I just see Jeff Probst in my head saying, "And next season on Survivor."
I just see Chris Harrison saying, "And this next season is going to be the most dramatic season yet." And
Well,
that is absolutely true. It's Jesse Palmer now, Rick. Florida Gator alum.
Jesse does the absolute most, I feel like. Well, we'll get into Jesse's career at a later date, I'm sure.
We might even talk about it in the season finale next week.
That's true.
Anything is fair game, Rick, in a season finale.
Anything is fair game, Park.
Well.
Park, hold on. Whoa. I'm going to lead us off here. This is your choice. You get to say the final words.
All right.
I don't even know what you say, but I'm going to say, well, this has been Two Dudes, One Movie podcast, and I'm your host, Rick the Third. And you are Parker. That was awful. Park, you got to go.
Rick, you botched that so poorly.
Park, I couldn't do it. You handle it, please.
Watch and learn.
I will.
You've been listening to Two Dudes, One Movie podcast, the podcast where two dudes dive into cinematic masterpieces from a different decade each week. From black and white classics to modern day blockbusters, we'll be covering it all. Thank you so much for watching this season, for tuning in with us throughout the generations. We are so excited to cap off the season with our season finale next week. As always, though, I'm Parker.
And I'm Rick.
And we'll see you then.
Respect boundaries and find love on toilets. Goodbye.
Two Dudes, One Movie podcast is an independently created podcast.
Like, rate, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen.
You can find the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can also find us on YouTube, where we post full video recordings of each episode.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Two Dudes, One Movie podcast.
Thanks for listening.